Hi, and welcome to PhD at Living. Have you ever gotten really drunk and tried to beat a breathalyzer? Well, I haven't, but I had an organic chemistry professor that kept one around just to see if anybody would be willing to blow on it in lab. Nobody ever volunteered. Irish Catholic school, so I'm going to plead the fifth for everybody. Well, that got me thinking, how's that thing work? And can you beat it? The typical presumptive breathalyzer that you'll see in the field utilizes a platinum fuel cell. And here we get into electrochemistry, which usually scares me to death. A lot of people have a trigger when they hear the word chemistry. Well, as a chemist, I trigger when I hear electrochemistry, but I promise I'll do my best. Here you can see a general diagram of a fuel cell, and you can see that it has three parts: the anode, the cathode, and an electrolyte in the middle. The process works by something coming into the anode and being oxidized, that is, it loses electrons. From that, protons are created and they flow through the electrolyte into the cathode. Inside the cathode, those protons react with oxygen and dispel water. This whole thing keeps the fuel cell relatively charge balanced. The key, however, is that electrons flow from the anode to the cathode, and they create a current. And this current is what we detect in our breathalyzer. Well, golly, Devin, that's mighty sweet and all, but how does any of that relate to booze? Alright, fine. Remember that time I said something's oxidized in the anode? Well, in our breathalyzer example, that something is ethanol, CH3CH2OH, otherwise referred to as alcohol, or that thing that gets everybody in the club tipsy. Everybody in the club gets tipsy. At the anode, usually made of platinum powder here, the ethanol is oxidized into acetic acid. In addition, we have some protons that are created, pass through the electrolyte, and react at the cathode, made of nickel metal, with oxygen, creating water. Finally, but most importantly, we have 4 electrons from this reaction that create the current for the fuel cell. Essentially, a proportional amount of ethanol is oxidized, creating a proportional amount of electrons, creating a proportional amount of current, creating a proportional amount of detection for the police officer or whoever to decide if you're far too inebriated to operate heavy machinery. Hang on a second. Here we're measuring breath alcohol content, but the law's based on blood alcohol content, so what gives? Thanks, other Devin. You're always keeping me so honest. The breathalyzer has a given ratio of ethanol in the breath compared to ethanol in the blood. For those of you playing at home, if you guessed that ratio was 2100 to 1, great job. You should sign up for the Price is Right or something, because that's pretty impressive. We assume that every molecule we detect of ethanol in the breath relates to 2100 molecules of ethanol in the blood. If this presumptive test is enough to take you back to the station, you'll likely blow into a benchtop breathalyzer, which is probably an infrared spectrometer. There we're looking for an extremely strong and broad OH peak at 3200 wave number or so, and that again we try to proportionally back into a number or amount of ethanol in your breath/blood. Couple of quick points here. Neither the fuel cell nor the IR spectrometer back at the station is selective for ethanol, meaning if you have other alcohols on your breath, they'll be detected just the same as ethanol. That being said, why you would have a bunch of methanol or butanol on your breath is completely beyond me, and if you do, you should definitely see a doctor like yesterday. Finally, there are a lot of old bros tales out there that try to beat or trick the breathalyzer, but let me spoil the ending for you and say that they just don't work. For you to be able to beat the breathalyzer, you have to either interfere with the signal such that you break the instrument, or eliminate all of the alcohol signal that's there. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that would eliminate that alcohol signal without also eliminating other things, like your mouth. And that's breathalyzer chemistry: electrochemical fuel cells and IR spectrometers. Nothing fancy, but gets the job done. Also, don't try to beat them, because it's probably not going to happen. See you next time. I'm very drunk, and I intend on getting still drunker before this evening's over.